How's it going, folks? Today we're going to be looking at Adventures Like You, Skyrim Local Co-op. This is a mod that adds local multiplayer to Skyrim. It requires 2 to 4 X input controllers. So if you got those on hand, plug them in and let's get started. So we're going to be taking a look at the zip file. There should be 2 versions on the Nexus mod page when this mod's released. And one should be for Special Edition, which is version 1.97 and before, and Anniversary Edition, which is any version after that. So let's take a look at what's in the zip. We've got 4 folders and 2 ESPs. If you want to install this manually without using a mod manager, you can go directly to your Skyrim Special Edition folder and then the data subfolder and then drop what's in the zip in here. But today, for our demonstration, we're going to be using Mod Organizer 2. So I've got an instance with Skyrim Anniversary Edition loaded up. I also have a bunch of categories here for the mods that you need and mods that I highly recommend. So for these prereqs, you're going to want to install every single one of them. These also include prereqs for the prereqs, so these should be all the mods that you need. And also, the order doesn't really matter. You can try to move these around as you need to. And in addition to that, we're going to also be showcasing these mods, the highly recommended ones. These pair very well with Adventures Like You, and I think you guys should give it a try. There are also additional recommendations here you can use as well. These also have been tested and work well with the mod. And then any other additional mods that you want to add, you can add in. I can't guarantee compatibility with Adventures Like You. It may require patches on my end or on the other mod's end. But if there's any particular mod that you guys want to see have added compatibility, let me know and I'll see what I can do in the future. And of course, make sure this one's checked. But outside of that, we're also going to have to run Nemesis, which is right here, Project New Rain. So in order to make managing the output easier, we're going to actually create a new empty mod and call it Nemesis Output. So let's go do that right now. Nemesis Output, check it so that it's active. And then we're going to run Nemesis through Mod Organizer 2. So in order to do that, we're going to go to Data, and then you're going to click Execute with the VFS if you've already navigated to this destination. Otherwise, you can add it as an executable here, which I'm going to do. Name it what you want and hit OK. And then from the drop down, you should see it here now. We can select it, and also we can edit. And very importantly, you're going to want to check this box here. Create files in mod instead of overwrite. And now we can select that empty mod that we just made, which is right here. Click Apply, click OK, and we should be ready to go for that. So let's go ahead and run Nemesis. Okay, so the first time you run it, it should fail to read the cache mod file because there isn't one. Same with the language cache file, so don't worry about those notifications. If you just have the prereqs installed, you're going to want to check Precision and then any other patches you might want to install. If you have true directional movement, as a special case, do not check the 360 archery patch. This is not compatible with players 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to call those players companion players from here on out. So those players, companion players, do not rotate properly with that patch. So if you install true directional movement, do not check that patch. So we're going to update the engine first, and then afterward we will launch the behavior engine. I have not used Pandora behavior engine. I'm sure the process is similar. Make sure you have precision checked as well if you're running Pandora. Okay, so while we wait for this behavior engine to execute, we're also going to change one other setting in Skyrim Souls RE if you're going to be using that mod. So I'll show you what to do there. And then once we go in game, we're going to take a look at editing some of True HUD's and Precision's settings. So this is done now. It's complete, and we can close it out. So you want to go to your Skyrim Souls RE mod, right-click, open an Explorer. Then we're going to head over to the Plugins folder and open up the configuration file. Now there's one setting I encourage you guys to change, and that's this one right here. Be auto close menus, make sure it's false. And the reason for this is because when companion players open up menus in game, if they're too far away from the player beyond this 400 unit distance, the menu will close automatically, and we don't want those menus to close for other players. For example, when they're trying to access their inventory or their magic menu. So change this to false, and then everything else feel free to edit. I've kept it default aside from this one setting. So when you're done, click this and save, and then we can exit. Alright, so now we are going to take a look at the plugin load order. So it really doesn't matter, but the main thing to keep in mind is if you're playing Skyrim, make sure this ESP is checked and the Enderall one is unchecked, and vice versa if you're playing Enderall, make sure Enderall's ESP is checked and this one is unchecked. And then move whatever checked ESP down to the bottom as far as you can. So everything else you can rearrange your load order, sort, and we're basically done with load order. Of course, if you guys are going to be downloading it from Nexus, currently it's unreleased as of recording this video, but when you download it, it should be in this Downloads tab, and then you can right-click and click Install, and then it should show up on this panel here, and you can check it and rearrange your mod list order. Okay, so with that said, let's get started and launch the game. So we're going to use SKSE through Mod Organizer, and it's a similar process. You can create an SKSE shortcut by finding the executable file and have these two checked. Click OK, and we are now going to run the game. So while this loads, let's go over some general tips for you guys. So the main things to remember with this mod are to save frequently and stick together. Number one, saving frequently means you won't lose any progress if there's some kind of problem, like if there's a crash or a freeze or any sort of soft lock. Sticking together will allow the camera to see the players without having to move around as much. It won't get stuck in a bad spot. So try to stay together as much as possible. Now I will be showing you some other camera settings you can use for better performance and to provide a better view of all the players. A few other things before we start a new game. It's important to try out some debug options. So this mod will come with some debug options that will reset your character in some way or re-equip items. If your character is having some sort of issue, like if they're stuck, their animations are glitching or something like that, try out these debug options and see if they fix it. If you do encounter a recurring issue, like if something just keeps happening, like if your guy's spazzing out every 5 minutes even after you've tried the debug options, then please let me know and tell me what steps you perform to produce that bug, and I'll try to fix it. Expect the game to crash sporadically because on top of my own suboptimal code and workarounds, remember that it's always Skyrim underneath, and there is some jank there, and adding my own jank on top, it's a big old jank sandwich, so expect a crash here and there. Also, final thing for now, if you have a customized control map text file, try to disable that while you're playing co-op, because this can cause issues with player one's controls. You might not be able to open certain menus, there might be some other issues with the co-op binds. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's start a new game. So I've got my two controllers plugged in, and let's go. Actually, let's just start a new game right now. So this is the vanilla start. It's going to show the title screen. I'm going to actually wait until I see the survival mode dialog, because I do not want to enable survival mode for this particular demonstration, but you can always enable it. Now you can actually summon right now, and I'm going to do that. So, sorry. I'm going to open up the summoning menu. It'll say that it's already been requested to open if you try to open it twice, like that. And we're going to go over the customization options real quick. Now you may have noticed the camera is under the cart. And well, that's because the camera is now in third person instead of first person. So I'm going to just show you guys this for a bit. And once Rayloff starts talking, you'll be able to move the camera around. So I'm going to move it back up here so we're not looking at the wheels and the dirt. Alright, so customization. You'll notice that there is a colored border around the screen, and this will indicate what player is controlling menus. So by default, player 1 has a red, black and white border, and player 2 has a green, black and white border. So player 2 is currently in control, meaning my second controller that I plugged in is controlling the menus. I'm going to customize my character. So these are the main customization options. You should go through them in the order they're listed, especially the first time around when you're creating a new character. So I'm going to name my character. I'm going to call him Goofleberry. And class. So class is not super useful unless you have a specific option checked in the MCM, which stacks the class levels that you gain automatically with levels that you gain while playing and using your skills. So it's not super useful unless you have that option checked. I'm going to just pick someone. Let's be a mud crab. Why not? And each time you change your class above level 1, it should rescale your stats. So right now at level 1, all these stats are just based on my race choice. So now going into appearance, we can choose our race. I'm going to go with Orc. And again, race change will change your stats. So you can see that they've changed. I don't have 25 two-handed anymore. Change your gender as well. I'm going to go with male plus male for now. There are 4 options here. And appearance presets. So what this is a very basic system. It copies over an NPC's appearance onto your character based on your race and gender choice. So I'm going to pick a male orc appearance to copy on. So let's pick Bob. And that is the appearance done there. Now we have voice type. So for voice type, there are a bunch of creature voices and voices without dialogue. Those will not really, those will make your player a mute. So I'm going to choose, let's say, male coward. Why not? And then height and weight. So you don't want to go too low or too high. I think the optimal range is like 75 to 125. Below 75 and you'll clip through the ground. Above 125 and you're going to have to sneak to go through basically every door you encounter. So let's go with the shorter orc. And this goes from 0 to 100, the weight. This allows you to push people out of the way if you go to full 100. So I'm going to do 100. You can also view your character stats at any point through the summoning menu. So that I haven't changed anything really or leveled up, so this is going to be default. Alright, the card stop. Let's summon Goofleberry. Alright, so we've summoned player 2. He is here now. We move his arms around, tilt his torso up and down, which actually influences your attack angle. While you're attacking, you can see that you can attack up and down if he's twisted his torso up and down. And I can reset it as well. That's why this arrow keeps popping out of his forehead. He's resetting his aim pitch. Now, I'm going to try really hard not to wreak any havoc on anyone or punch anyone or just get in the way. Because this opening sequence is extremely easy to break. And I'm going to do whatever I can to not have it break. So as much as I want to punch Lokir over there, well, he's dead anyway, of course. So also, you do not want to move player 1 too much because, yeah, that. So the reason for his arms going inside of his chest and him walking around like a South Park character is because this whole intro sequence is basically supposed to be in first person. So since we forced the camera into third person, it looks really weird. So just keep that in mind. It was really weird when I first saw it. But if you're going through the opening sequence after summoning another player, just be aware of that. It's fine, and he'll be fine once his shackles are cut off. Because currently he's bound, and that's why he can't react with anything. So default Nord is the way we're going. We're going to just call him, I don't know, prisoner. And that's his name now. So you can sheathe and unsheathe, sneak, jump. If you notice, there's a crosshair you can use for both characters. You can select different things on the screen and it'll show you what you're selecting and other information as well, notifications based on what you've selected and what action you're performing. If you notice, It'll actually recenter itself when you're not moving it for a while, so you won't lose track of where it is. And another very important thing here is the crosshair mode. So if you switch to this mode here and if you have your weapons out, you will face your crosshair position. So you can effectively lock onto someone like this. And if you switch it back, you can now move freely in the direction of your left stick. And also, when you attack, you will always face whatever NPC target you have selected. Or if you are already using the face crosshair mode, you'll also face the target at all times. So keep that in mind. Those are the two crosshair modes. I'm going to try not to get too rowdy here. But there's another thing you can do. The special action bind allows you to cycle emotes. And being the immature person that I am, you can emote while this dude gets his head cut off. So yeah, if you're going to do anything during this sequence, you can emote. It's fine. Won't break anything. And there's quite a few. There's 8 you can cycle through, and there's even ones you can assign yourself. I will go through all the MCM options later, or just briefly touch upon them, because I'd rather show you how to use most of these binds instead. So anyway, you can also see, if you select a container or a corpse, you can see the name of the container, the value in gold inside, and the weight inside, and also your space. So you can keep track of whether or not looting everything from this container will make you encumbered. So also, rotating the camera, probably already noticed that, zooming in and out, moving up and down. You'll see that it kind of zooms out after I move it up, and that's because it's auto-rotating to keep everyone on screen, all the players. So those are settings you can change in the MCM. Hi, all the ones. How you doing, buddy? So anyway, we have now started the first quest, or about to anyway, and also started combat, which is why there's a little health widget above player 2's head. Now, player 1 is going to be a South Park character for this entire intro sequence, and they're okay. You just have to go through it like this. And try to just follow Rayloff or Hadvar throughout this intro sequence, because deviating from the path can cause some issues. So wait for their dialogue to finish. Like, once he says go up to the tower, you can start going through the tower. And you also notice the camera slightly rotates in the direction that the players are moving. This is just for quality of life purposes, makes it so that you don't have to rotate the camera as much on your own. Let's jump in with player 1. I think this might keep player 2 from jumping in. Yep. So if you guys get separated, you can teleport to the other player by holding the teleport to other player bind, which you'll find in the MCM. And I have a little graphic that shows all the binds. So you can take a look at that. I'm actually going to show you looting things now. So you can see these 2 pots here. If you hold the A button, it'll cycle between nearby objects. See how it's going from one to the other? And then if you release A, it'll loot whatever you are currently highlighting. That's how you loot items. There's also another way to loot, and that's to loot everything of a type. So let's say I want to select all pots. I can hold A, wait for it to glow, and then I can press L1. And if there's anything somewhat near it, it will loot both. If you want to loot every lootable object, like every loose object in the area, don't select anything, and then hold A and press L1. And boom, just looted 3 pieces of junk. Isn't that cool? And the same thing kind of applies for containers. So let's see what's in here. There's 3 red apples. So if I hold A and press L1, see it loots everything from the barrel. So that's how you can loot things quickly. So all you loot goblins out there, time to clear out some rooms really quickly. Just be aware of your carry weight though. As you can see, there's limited space there. Alright, so let's keep going. I'm just going to run right by. Which is really funny, he doesn't breathe on this poor fella if you run fast enough, so technically he's fine.
Yes? Good morning.
I think he's fine. Good morning. So, hug the wall here. There should be an opening blasted through. this building. Yep, and then this guy's dead. Alright, let's show equipping things directly from a container. So I'm going to equip everything on this corpse with player 2. Now I have all this stuff. So I will now show you guys projectiles and how you can adjust the trajectory of projectiles before you shoot. So if I shoot, you'll see by default this little projection, and you can also notice that it kind of locks onto any nearby enemies. In this case it's Alduin, so it will try to predict where it can shoot so that it intercepts the target and hits Alduin. So this is with aim direction or aim assistance active. That's also a toggleable setting, so if you don't want to have that, it's all fine and good. So if you want to adjust the projectile trajectory, you can actually lob it like this. So let's aim at Hadvar. He's looking at me funny. So I can arch it more. See how it'll shoot up and then come down and hit him. And that'll actually add a bounty. So I can also stop combat with NPCs that do not have a bounty on me. Now other people might, but Hadvar does not. You can see how it stops combat. So if his name is pink, so you'll notice his name is pink here. If I press A on him, you'll stop combat with him because he's technically he's an ally of the player, and this is just a quick way to make sure that he doesn't stay aggroed towards a companion player. I'm going to now show the debug menu because I want to clear that bounty I've just accrued just for this demonstration. So keep in mind it is cheating if you clear your bounties without having to pay a cent. So let's just stop combat, clear bounties, and see, you can see it removed 80 gold. But in reality, it also gave you 80 gold, so you didn't lose anything. So that debug menu, you're going to see a whole bunch of options. Some of them are for the entire party. You can disable, enable God mode, do all this fun stuff. This one just stops combat without clearing bounties. So if for some reason an NPC is still mad at you for no reason, you can just stop them from being mad. These are per player options. You can even respec, which removes all your perks, all your health, magic, and stamina level ups, and allows you to level up again from level 1. You'll keep all your skill levels, so if you're like restoration 85, you'll stay at 85, so don't worry about that. And then you have miscellaneous options, like if player 1's controller ID, if for some reason the player 1 controller, which is the one that controls player 1 by default, that's controlling the wrong player, or if there's some other weird mixed up controller ID issue, you can reassign player 1's CID here. But it automatically assigns when you first summon anything, so there shouldn't be any issues. You can reset the camera in player 1 if either of those two things bug out. You can restart the co-op camera if it's for some reason not starting. You can try to restart the whole thing. And stop menu input manager. This will give player 1 control of menus if a companion player is still in control for some reason when they shouldn't be. So that's the whole debug menu. I'm going to show you Debug Binds, which you can use to fix issues. So this one's ragdolling. If your character's getting stuck or is unresponsive, you can try ragdolling them. That might bust them out of their funk. Re-equip items in your hands if, for example, your weapon is swinging oddly and kind of your animations are spazzing out. You can reset player managers. This will re-equip everything and reset all the co-op related data. And then the nuclear option, reset player. This will disable them, enable them, ragdoll them, do everything back to back to back. And hopefully that fixes everything else that you may come across. So let's all say hi to Maglara, who is actually a paid actor and is not doing a very good job. Alright, Hadvar, we are going to now enter the keep in a moment. So, let's see, is there anything else we can do out here? I've shown off most things. There are also two other cam modes which I'd like to show off before we head in. There's manual positioning mode, which is pretty much free cam. So you basically rotate the camera and point it at where you want to go, and then you zoom in and out to move forward and back, and move left and right, or zoom in while moving right stick left and right, and that'll move left and right. So you can just place the camera here, and this might be good for having duels if you want to duel your friends. This would be a good camera to use as it's not rotating on its own and it's not bumping into things. Alright, and then the other mode is lock-on. This one's still a work in progress. Currently the default setting is auto rotation, so it will rotate and attempt to face the target and keep it on screen. So currently Alduin is there, and you'll see 3 little quest markers above whoever you've locked onto. So I'm going to just let him fly around for a bit to show you the tracking. And I'll kind of just keep him somewhat on screen as best it can, as camera collisions permit as well if you have camera collisions on. And you can unlock it by pressing the bind again. Also, if you need to disable the camera, you can also do that. For example, if there's something that you can't select, like if this door were not selectable, it is right now, but if it weren't, you could switch the camera back to the default camera and then move player 1 over there and select it. So you shouldn't get locked out of using objects or going through doors. So that shouldn't be an issue. So let's go with Rayloff here. He's closer, and I don't feel like walking 5 feet over to the left. Alright, so let's get our arms unbound. So you don't have to walk around with no arms or animations. That would be nice. Excuse me, Mr. Rayloff, can you hurry up, please?
That thing was a dragon, no doubt.
That is a dragon.
Children's stories and the legends.
Alright, so let's showcase something else while he gabbers on. So we have a dodge. It's kind of a step or dash dodge, which you can use.
There you go. May as well take on your ski.
But importantly, you did not see the stamina go down, or you can't see player 2's health or magicka. So the reason for that is as follows. Anniversary Edition does not have a mod that allows you to display health, magicka, and stamina outside of combat. True HUD will show it in combat, but not outside of combat. So even if you have the actor bars for True HUD set so that they show up, the best option you can use here is on combat start. So outside of combat, you won't be able to see those stats. And I have a temporary workaround for Anniversary Edition. Again, for Special Edition, you should have party combat parameters, and that will show each player's health bar, stamina, and magicka. So if you're on Anniversary Edition, though, I'll show you what to do. Before I forget, for precision, go to Miscellaneous in the MCM and max out this value. This will mean that if players get really far apart, precision will still apply to them. So if player 2 is really far away, up to 10,000 units, precision will still work from that distance. Okay, so as I was saying, what you want to do if you are on Anniversary Edition is come into this Menus and Interface tab and check off Health, Magicka, and Stamina stats. And I'll show you what that looks like. So now if I use Stamina, you'll see 3 numbers, red for health, blue for Magicka, green for Stamina. And it'll show you what your levels are. And once they're full again, these 3 numbers will disappear so they don't take up the screen and block off other objects. So this will show you those things. So this dash dodge, back to the dash dodge, has iframes you can customize. You can customize the speed. Currently there's no stamina cost you can customize specifically for the dodge. However, there's a global, not global, but per player stamina, magicka, health, cost, and regeneration values that you can customize in the MCM. So if you want to balance the game to your own tastes, go for it. There's a lot of options, there's a lot of multipliers you can use to either increase the amount of damage received or taken or dealt out, and you can just play around with all of those multipliers. So again, this is a dash dodge. It has iframes. Sometimes it'll look a little bit jank. It also, depending on how far you move the left stick over, it will do a slight dodge. It'll do a back dodge if you are not moving, but if you do move, it'll do a slight lean if you don't move the left stick much. So you can adjust the distance of your dodge is what I'm saying, and the stamina cost is also lower if you don't dodge as far. Alright, let's make Rayloff stop repeating the same line. I apologize for that. I'll just loot this dude. And I get to show you something else. So, see this clutter here? Why is there so much clutter in Skyrim? Environmental storytelling? No, it's because you can grab that stuff. There's telekinesis in the default game, but why not have it so that you can grab up to 101 objects at once. That couldn't cause any problems, right? So I'm going to show you something you can do in combat after I've grabbed all these items. So let's watch this Imperial Captain right here and the Archer coming in. I think she comes in first. You can throw objects and get a sneak attack. So throwing objects counts as a regular attack now, and you can also slap people. This uses up stamina. Throwing objects uses up magicka. So if you run out of stamina, it's going to be very hard to knock someone down, but you can stop them from attacking. They are getting electrocuted by the power of tickles, and they can't stop it. So have fun basically being a human rain delay and preventing people from attacking. Now, of course, these mechanics are toggleable. If you think they're way too overpowered, you can adjust the cost or disable them entirely. But by default, they are there if you want to use it. So let's go and loot some stuff. I'm going to pick up my things again. Also, for grabbing objects, if you grab a whole bunch of stuff, you can actually loot everything you grab by highlighting one thing and pressing L1 or A and then L1, just like you would to loot every object near you.
Come on, this way.
Okay, so now we've gone through that. I'm going to just pick up a couple cabbages for the road. You can always throw these things at NPCs, friendly ones or otherwise. Eat your greens, Rayloff. Or you can even play sports, for example, and that's what I want to show you next. So before we go into the next room and fight a couple of people, let's look at the special menus and some other quality of life features. So you've already seen teleport to another player. There's also the gift menu, and this will allow you to gift items between two players and also between companion players, like player 2 and player 3. With the other menu, you can only swap objects or items between player 1 and player 2. But here, if you have 3 players or more, it'll show a little menu and you can select who you want to trade with. So companion players can trade with each other. In addition to that, here's some fun stuff that may come in the future. The mini-game menu. None of this is implemented back, and I have more ideas that I hope to implement at some point, because I feel like this would be a lot of fun, especially with some of the extra mechanics that I've added. And I think that is basically everything. Aside from this, you can assign new emote idols. So out of the 32 event names that are in the MCM, I think I showed you that here. Emote idols. You can pick from these 32 and pick 8 of them, and these will be the cyclable emote idols that you can choose. So you can change the emote idols there. So we're going to go fight some guys in the next room, but before we do that, one more thing. Let's show you favorites and how you can favorite separate spells and items. So let's say I want to favorite flames with player 2 and their bow. So now if I go to my favorites menu, I got flames and imperial bow. And then for player 1, let's do healing, and we'll do his war axe. So let's do left and right. And you can see that there are 2 sets of favorites, which is super useful because now you can have your own list of things that you can use. And on that same topic, besides favorites, there's also a secret new mechanic called quick slot casting. So if you press the pause button on a spell, you'll see this little QSS tag pop up. And what this will do is equip a spell to your voice casting slot, which is the magic cast you use for shouts. And now if you hold the quick slot cast button, you can cast from your mouth. And what this means is you can cast up to 3 spells at once. So if you hold both triggers and you press quick slot cast, I'm casting 3 spells at once. And everything works as it should, at least hopefully. So yeah, that's the quick slot cast. I will show you there's also a quick slot item which you can use to quickly imbibe potions and things like that. So let's go to the next room and fight some guys and pick up these cabbages, because that, yeah, player 1 is a cabbage, by the way. Speaking of, let's grab player 1. You can actually throw players by default, but not NPCs, because that would be, I think, a little too overpowered. Also, I think this scene hasn't triggered yet because player 1 is ragdolled. So that's new. Let's trigger it. Yep, there we go. So if player 1 is ragdolled there, the scene doesn't trigger. So those 3 people don't die. I guess I could have gone in here first and saved them. Oh well. So anyway, you can throw other players. You can't throw NPCs unless you change the MCM settings. So yeah, currently I'm going to just fight them off with player 2. I can't really fight with both players right now because I'm trying to control 2 players with 2 hands, and I am not coordinated whatsoever. So, Rayloff will get him, right, buddy? I got him. That was all me, Rayloff. Remember that. Alright, so, more stuff to show here. Let's loot the potions first, because there's a bunch of potions in here. And we'll take a look at quick slot items. So, let's favorite healing. And then I can go to my favorites and press the start button. And now I can press the quick slot item button. It'll show you that you've used a potion and how many are left. So that's how you can quickly use a potion in the middle of combat if you want to. Alright, now we have a few more things I can favorite, and I can show you another hopefully convenient way of equipping items. So if you go to the favorites menu and you click in the right stick and you move it in a circle, you can see that it radially selects different slots to hotkey the item. Starting from the top is 1 and then clockwise all the way up to 8. So let's do healing and let's say sword and 5. Now if I do the same exact thing, click in the left stick and move in a circle, you'll see it's going through the different hotkeys. And if you keep the right stick clicked in and move to a slot, and then you press either the left or right trigger, let's say I wanted left trigger, it'll equip flames in the left hand. Now if I go down to Imperial Sword and click right trigger, it'll equip the Imperial Sword in my right hand. So that's a quick way you can kind of cycle through things. If you want to clear your hand, choose one of the empty slots and press left or right hand. If you want to equip to the quick slot, to the spell slot, you can press the R1 button by default, and that'll allow you to equip it to the quick slot. Say I want to do, well, I can't equip a sword to my quick slot. That'd be kind of weird, right? So let's do healing. Sorry, let's do healing in slot 3, and then it's already equipped. So that's a spell quick slot, and minor healing is equipped. Alright, so you can actually consume one directly from the hotkey. Alright, so that's how you hotkey items, and you can switch them up. It's based on what you have favorited, so keep that in mind too. And let's just quickly loot everything here. So that's pretty quick. Another thing I can show is you can sit and use furniture. It's a little slow sometimes, but just give it some time, especially for companion players. They kind of take a while to turn and get in the furniture. And you just move the left stick to get out of the furniture. So another thing, let's actually spawn in some horses so I can show you riding on horseback. So I'm going to have 2 horses and just press A to get on them. And they both have similar turning radii. I think player 2's is a little less sensitive and has a wider turn radius, so I'll have to tweak that. If you want to fire a bow on horseback, it might look a little odd, but yeah, they kind of completely dislocate their spine at times. But yeah, you can actually aim on horseback. It's not half as polished as TDM's 360 horse archery, but currently this is what I'm working with, and I have to eventually fix that up. So this does look a little odd sometimes, like he's wringing himself out at the waist. But yeah, that's how you do it. So to dismount, you just press the sneak bind, because you can't sneak while you're on a horse. It makes no sense, so why even have, or why have the bind do anything but dismount. I'm going to keep this lucky cabbage, by the way. Get that salt pile.
Done. Let's get moving.
Alright, so moving on now. We can take a look at progression. So I don't think I've really leveled anything up yet, but if you press the up on the D-pad, Oh, I should mention, if you're in the tween menu, you guys know that there are 4 different menus here, and that's how they're mapped on the D-pad. So up for tween, left for magic, right for inventory, and down for map. And you'll see that individual skills progress differently. So like I have some points in archery because I landed some shots with my bow. And for player 1, they haven't done anything except sneak a bit, so they get some sneak XP. So this is separate progression, and when you level up, you'll be able to choose different perks per player. So hopefully I'll be able to show you guys a level up, but I don't have high hopes on leveling anything if I'm throwing objects, slapping, or a third thing, which I'm going to show you next. There's one more extra mechanic. I hope Rayloff hasn't killed everyone down here. He's a very violent fellow, that guy. Nope, he already did. Alright, so anyway, I'll show you in the next combat scene. There's another mechanic, and it might be my favorite one. It's a little goofy, but that's a recurring theme, right? So, yeah. Just quickly loot all of this, and I will now show you guys 2-player lockpicking. So by default, this is not enabled. If you're playing with 2 players, you can have the player that activates the locked object move the pick, and the other player move the lock. So left stick moves the pick, right stick moves the lock. So I'm moving. Let me just exit real quick because that always shows up the first time. Left stick moves the pick with player 2. Right stick moves the lock with player 1. And boom. Cooperative lockpicking. That's huge. So here I can show you an example again of looting a specific item and not something else. Let's just pick up the gold here by holding A and then pressing L1 and releasing L1. And boom, I just looted all the gold. I didn't loot anything else. If I wanted to loot everything, I could, and that's what I'm going to do next. And then we can close the door. Alright, so I basically showed you most of the binds now. Of course, there's also the wait menu, but we can't wait here, and I've showed you the tween menu. Dialogue control switching is also a thing. So if you are talking to someone, let's say I want to talk to Rayloff for some godforsaken reason, and he had dialogue. Unfortunately, he does not. So we'll show you that one later when he actually has dialogue that I can bring up. Alright, so the next encounter, I'm going to try to show you catching projectiles. You know, you can grab items, but you can grab projectiles out of thin air, like if you time it correctly. There's also a setting to make it easier to grab in the MCM if you want to tweak that. So if you notice the camera does bump into things, it's best to have it kind of pitched flat instead of like at an angle, otherwise it'll be bumping into the ceiling, and the ceiling is quite bumpy. You can also disable camera collisions, which I will show in a bit as well. But that will decrease your FPS as well, because you have to also remove occlusion volumes, which is not the best idea, but if you have the FPS headway, it's definitely a good idea if you want a smoother experience. So this dude isn't going to shoot his bow, I'm going to have to just shoot him then. Sorry, I'm trying to control 2 characters, and I forgot that precision has the recoil. Alright, let's try to catch a projectile from one of these guys. So I don't have enough magicka, so that might be a problem. I'll try to do it with player 1. There we go, I caught a projectile by pressing grab as the projectile got close to me. And if you throw it, you knock the player down, you knock whoever you're throwing that down, and it does damage from the knockdown plus the original damage from the projectile itself. So this is extremely powerful, but you have to time the grab correctly and have sufficient magicka, because as you lose magicka, it becomes harder to grab projectiles. The little radius around you that serves as the projectile grab window, it shrinks. So you have to have sufficient magicka. Wow, did he kill 2 people with 1 dual-wield power attack? That's kind of nuts. Rayloff's a menace. Alright, so moving onward now. I didn't get to show you another new mechanic, but I can show you what happens when you're over-encumbered. You won't be able to sprint. You can still dodge, but it does use quite a bit of stamina. So let's drop some stuff. I'm a bit of a loot goblin. And by a bit, I mean a lot. Very much a loot goblin. Alright, so no armor is necessary, really.
Let's see where this goes.
Let's see if I can actually activate this lever here. And lower the bridge. It worked. Last time I tried doing that, it didn't work. So I'm glad it worked first try this time. Okay, so I don't believe I've showed auto grab. You can basically hold the grab bind to suck nearby clutter to you. And in doing that, you can grab up to 101 items, which is what I mentioned earlier. So you can do this, grab all the items. Actually, I do believe I showed you that. So there's quite a few things, and I'm getting a bit lost. Let's see, what else do we have? There is the revive system. So you haven't seen this yet because I'm so dang good at the game, but if you were to die, one of you gets to 0 health. The game doesn't end right away, it doesn't reload the previous save. You'll have a small revive window, by default 30 seconds, to go over to your downed companion who is ragdolled and unresponsive. And you can hold A to revive them. And by default you have to hold A for 5 seconds to fully revive them. And this involves a health transfer. So by default, when you start out, you'll transfer 50% of your health and they'll gain back 50% of theirs. If you level restoration, you'll actually, I'm going to actually try to kill player 1 and player 2. So you can see the new mechanic, tactical ragdolling. This is kind of a double-edged sword kind of mechanic where you injure yourself at the expense of hitting someone else and knocking them down. And you can also jump really high if you lean back and slam people if you aim down. The damage taken from the flop scales off of how fast you hit whatever object you're hitting and also the distance you fall in. The more armor you wear, the more damage you inflict, and the less damage you take. So it's best to really gear up before you start flopping like a maniac. Okay, so player 2 has died. See the life percent and revive percent? 30 seconds is ticking down. I can hold A on him, and you can see the health transferring because player 1 is losing health. And at full revive, 50-50. So that's how you revive other players. It's an optional system. Again, you can disable it. But if you do disable it, when one player hits 0 health, everyone dies. There's no opportunity to salvage things by reviving them. So that is the revive mechanic. There's also a kill move. Let me see if I can, there's a kill move system. I'm going to try to kill move a spider, so I gotta get closer. But yeah. And these guys are pushovers. Anyway, I'm going to show you the kill move MCM options instead once this spider decides to drop. He almost killed himself by dropping. Okay. Alright, that one had a silver ring. And garnet, lucky me. Alright, so for kill moves, since I probably won't be able to get one to activate based on the current parameters and how weak the enemies are on novice difficulty, I'm going to just show you through the new systems subpage of the menu. So you can disable it. You can kill move your friends. You can suplex people while casting spells from close range. It's quite a funny difference of like might versus magic, and it kind of collides here. You can straight up slam people while casting magic. And this is the kill move chance, meaning with these two numbers, if they're below 10% health, there's a 33% chance you can kill move with your next attack. It's actually, in reality, it's lower than that because there are other factors in play, such as the slope on which you guys are standing, you and your target, which has to be selected with the crosshair to perform a kill move. And some other factors like how far apart you are, your facing angle, and all that stuff. So this is the best case scenario, 33% per attack. And you can maximize this chance, I guess, by spamming the attack button. And that'll increase the likelihood of a kill move. So yeah, you can see a bunch of other options here. Like I mentioned earlier, you can disable the revive system. You can disable the dodge system if you don't want to do that. And we'll go over this stuff in a bit once I get through the rest. So yeah, I think I've shown basically every bind now. It's quite a bit. And I think I can show you guys the MCM options. Oh, one missing one, shout. So since we're not going to learn any words of power in here, I'm going to just cheat. So look away if you don't like cheating. I'm going to just do it for this demonstration. So we're going to just add word. I'm sorry, not add word. Teach word. So we're going to teach all three so I can show you the full shout. And there's a discrepancy between shouting with player 2 and shouting with player 1. Player 2 will always shout with the highest known variation, meaning they will always fus ro da if you know all three words. You can't just shout fus or fus ro. I will hopefully fix that at some point. But currently I'll show you the shouts. Lock it first. Oh, my bad. I also have to let's add some dragon souls. Why not? Unlock all three. And sorry, I can favorite it and also equip it. And so if I do a shout, there won't be any voiced lines for this shout for player 2, but after releasing shout, it'll do the shout. So right now I have friendly fire on, which is why I haven't dealt any damage to player 1. I mean, visually he's on fire, but he's not taking damage. Same with Rayloff, doesn't take damage. Doesn't even get phased by my swings. So yeah. And one other thing I forgot to mention is the special action bind. This is the one that allows you to emote, so it's pretty much the most important button. It's also the button that allows you to flop. Also why it's the most important button. But also it does another thing, which is quite complicated. But the simple way to think about it is it allows you to perform actions that you wouldn't normally be able to do in default Skyrim. So for example, blocking while your left hand has a spell, you can now do that by holding X. You can also bash and use quick items if you have one equipped. I'm going to unequip it. But if you don't have a quick item, it'll bash. You can see there. So it's a quick bash with a double tap. You can also dual cast. Instead of holding both triggers, you can just hold X. So there's a number of different behaviors. If you're transformed into a werewolf, it'll show you how much time you have left on your transformation, that sort of thing. So there's a nice little blurb in the MCM that you can look at to see the details of what actions you can now perform with a single button press. So back to the bow now. Yeah, so you can aim directly at where your crosshair is, and you can also, if you do not have it in face target mode, it'll just shoot at the torso, which is the most likely spot to land a hit. Also, if you're having issues with hit recognition, another important point here, there's per player options that allow you to change the projectile type. You could change it to homing, which I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to shoot a very slow arrow at player 1, and then it'll follow them around. I guess it didn't, because I'm not good at shooting arrows. Yes. Alright, let's try it again. So let me get a little further away so I have some time to just transfer my hands over to the other controller in the player 1. So, well, that didn't work. Hold on. Make sure I saved my changes. But by default prediction, oh, I changed player 1's, I'm sorry. Let me change player 2's, because player 1 is not shooting anything. Player 2's. Let's see if I missed any arrows somewhere, because I only have one. Should have picked up more from the dead corpses. So now this is homing. See how it homes in? It'll stop once it basically reaches the player, and then it goes through them. So homing is useful for hitting moving targets like dragons. I know you probably don't want to use it because it's a little bit overpowered, so prediction and time shots are the best bet then. Alright, let's equip stuff with my hotkey radial selection. And now we can try some cool stuff. So, a very important thing, actually two important things to keep in mind as a too long didn't watch, although if you're at this point in the video, I appreciate you for sticking with my long-winded explanations. But I'm going to show you something you can do. Sneaking, so again, if you highlight an NPC, it'll show the detected
Or if you're feeling
percent.
lucky,
Once it reaches 100, you are fully detected.
might take her by surprise. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I can sneak up and melee the bear. I don't think I've ever been able to do that. But also note the special mechanics like slapping and flopping. Those mechanics can also sneak attack. So it's basically, those are basically normal attacks. I'm just gonna probably shoot him with an arrow instead. Let's go do that. So I think somewhat detected, so sneaking fail next time. Or not. Alright, so the bear is out. And we are almost home free and out of Helgen Keep. So let me go over my notes real quick to see if there's anything else here. Yeah, so I'm showing you horseback riding and everything here. Alright, so let's go through the MCM options. I'll do that after we get out of the cave. I know Rayloff is quite impatient, so let's get out of here.
That looks like the way out.
Although he's
You with me.
simultaneously impatient and very slow, so it's kind of annoying. But yeah, let's get out of here. And it's nighttime because I took so long to explain all this stuff. Anyway, there goes Alduin, and we have completed our first quest.
There.
Good job,
If
Rayloff.
anyone else made it out alive, but this place is going to be swarming with it.
Good job, Rayloff. So anyway, now you can see he's mad at me. I don't know why, but he is. But if you press A on him,
It's probably
he's
best
okay.
if we split
And he
up.
gets his health restored because you didn't mean no
Couldn't have
harm,
made it
did you?
without your help today.
Alright, so now we can do the MCM related stuff. Let me talk to Rayloff. Alright, I can show you dialogue controls. So right now player 2 is controlling dialogue. What if player 1 wants to instead? They can press start, and you can see requesting dialogue control up there. Now if player 2 accepts the request, they can press start, and now player 1 is given control of dialogue.
You know, you should go to Windhelm and
You
join
can do
the fight.
it that way as well, switching to player 2. So then you can switch dialogue control. And if you're not the talkative sort, have your friend talk instead.
I don't want to run into any.
So there you go. That's how you switch dialogue control. And I think that sums up almost everything here. I will go through the MCM with you guys real quick, and then the world is your oyster. Go out and explore, right? So here we go. We got automatic adjustments. You can change the FOV. This is for disabling camera collisions. If you want the smoothest experience and you have FPS to spare, like I said earlier, remove occlusion, remove collisions. And the camera will clip through the ground, but it will not get stuck on any objects. It'll be a very smooth experience with the camera. And yeah, there won't be any hitching or stuttering, or very minimal hitching and stuttering. Okay, so that's another option. But I'd only do that in maybe interior cells, since the cramped areas sometimes can be quite annoying to have collisions in cramped places. So fading objects for better visibility, smoothing. We have cheats here. You can have infinite carry weight, no fall damage, speeding up dodge, equip, granting all perks like shield charge and roll, assigning emote idols. I've shown that one. Special mechanics can enable or disable them all. You can choose to throw or grab NPCs. Again, by default, not active because it trivializes combat with humanoids, but it is a fun time if you want to try it out sometime. Making grabbing projectiles easier by holding to grab, or increasing the projectile frame window. You can grab up to 101 objects, increase the speed and things, prevent NPCs from getting up, so really cheesing there. But it's an option if you want to, you know. Menus and interface, this scales the lock-on indicator and the border outline, which is the green, black, and white border, which shows up right now. You can have dialogue trigger with the closest player, so whoever's closest to the speaker gets control. You can move around the crosshair text, so if it's in a bad spot and keeps interfering with other UI elements, you can move it around. There's a pixel margin. You can change the alpha and the font size, so there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do there. Different rotation multipliers and speed multipliers. Want to be a speed demon? Be my guest. Want to fly to the moon and never come back because you turned off gravity? Maybe by accident? Be my guest. Have fun with this stuff. New systems. We haven't showed you that one already. Progression, kind of showed you. There's a level XP threshold. Lower it to level up faster. Perk points per level. This will just give you perk points if you keep increasing it, and remove them if you decrease. Enter all specific settings to allow for other players to create their own unique builds more easily, because they can level up their own skills if there are more skill books available. And then player specific options. These are all the cost and regeneration things. Multipliers for damage and cost multipliers for the special mechanics. There's dead zone related things. Skill XP, level up slower or faster for all your skills, not your level itself. This is crosshair stickiness, so I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but there is crosshair magnetism. You can toggle it off if you don't like it, but if you're moving over smaller objects, it'll slow the crosshair down so they're easier to select. You can target other players by default. Friendly fire is off. Aim correction is on. This makes it easier to aim without having to move your crosshair over a bunch of enemies. So in close quarters combat, that's probably the way to go. Projectile types. These are all the UI options you can change. You can prevent the crosshair from recentering and fading. You can turn off the projectile trajectory if that's causing frame rate issues. Because if you're casting 3 spells at once and multiple players are doing that, yeah, the frame rate's going to drop. Eventually, I hope to switch to a different method of drawing lines and arcs on the screen, and that should make it more performance friendly. But until then, if you can't handle the frame loss, disable this option. Actually, I'm going to show you what happens when you disable the option real quick and you shoot an enemy, so let's make Rayloft mad real quick. So now if you don't, sorry, I did it for player 1 again, I keep doing that. Let's not die though, that would be unfortunate. So let's pacify Rayloft and go to player 2, and we are going to, so aim correction, friendly fire. I'm going to turn off the predicted trajectory, and I have how many arrows left? 24. See how it doesn't show the trajectory? Now the aim correction will draw a little circle or a little ring around you instead. So that way you'll know which enemy you're targeting, which is only one person, but still you'll know which one you're targeting, even if you don't have trajectories active. Let's see. So those are the player options. I'll keep going down. I don't think I missed too much. This just allows you to resize it and change the gap thickness, sensitivity, length, visibility. So this is that little quest icon you see above players' heads when they're not in view. So like if I'd be on a tree, it would show the quest marker. I turned it on always for player 1, so that way you can always see yourself, and I think that's useful for when you're in the thick of melee combat and there's a lot of enemies around. So it's always good to have that on always. Then there's just color and transparency. You can fiddle around with these settings. And then we have binds. So as you probably have noticed, there are a ton of binds, and I probably could spend another hour going into detail on the exact inputs for each bind and how you can more easily use them. But just a quick word of advice. So for binds with multiple inputs, let's say you have this one here, like activate cancel. If you want to kind of spam the bind, you don't have to hold A and press R1 and then release both and then hold A and press R1 and keep doing that to spam the bind. You can actually just make sure that you keep every bind or every input held except for the last one. So just keep activate held, and then you can spam R1, and that will continue. That will also trigger the bind. So if I hold A and I spam R1, it will just keep canceling activation. So you can more easily spam a bind if you need to spam it. And that is true for most binds that trigger on release. And a lot of this mod's binds trigger on release. And the reason for that is so these binds can stack more easily, because other binds can get their say in and trigger instead of a bind with more inputs. So remember, if you want to spam a bind, or keep in mind that most binds trigger on release, so to spam it, just keep every input of that bind held except for the last one, and then the last one you can press. So also there's 2 or 3 options depending on the bind. You can change the input, or you can allow the bind to trigger when pressing the inputs for that bind in any order. So if I had this checked, I could press L1 and then A instead of A and then L1. I'd have a minimum hold time, and I will show you an example of this real quick. So for dodge, I've actually done a recursive bind where I've assigned it inputs that are from the sprint bind. So whatever input sprint has is what triggers dodge. And dodge is a button that triggers, or dodge is a bind that triggers on release. However, let's look at sprint. Sprint triggers on hold. And this is something you can't change. You have to hold to sprint. This is not a press to toggle like default Skyrim. It's a hold to sprint bind. And if you have minimum hold time checked, what this means is that, let's say the minimum hold time is 0.2 seconds before the bind triggers. That means if you press and release the sprint inputs, which is just B here, so if you press and release B within 0.2 seconds, it will trigger a dodge instead of start sprinting. And if you hold it longer than 0.2 seconds, you'll sprint instead of dodging. And that's how you can kind of stack multiple binds on the same inputs. So you can go crazy with that and really come up with some wacky control schemes. And then the last one, on consecutive tap, this is a double tap kind of thing. So you can double tap the button to trigger the bind. I don't think any binds by default have that configuration. I'm trying to think. But yeah, you can double tap to trigger certain binds if you want to stack them as well. So yeah, that's how you configure your binds. There's a whole ton of them here, and it's for each player. So this MCM is obscenely large and will only get bigger if I had more binds. Yeah, that is a lot of stuff. I hope you guys look at this MCM. It's like super important. You don't have to memorize each individual bind. It's going to come with time, and there's a lot of them that you probably don't need, so feel free to disable them. And you can do that by pressing A on the first button assigned, and that will disable it. You'll see it turns red there, so that'll disable the bind altogether. Also, if there are certain superficial errors in your binds, like let's say it's a recursive bind, but you, for example, for dodge and sprint, dodge is assigned to sprint and sprint's assigned to dodge, it will tell you that it's got an error in your binds or your control scheme, and it'll tell you which binds have an error, and it will disable the binds with the error. And you should be able to see that in-game. There should be a message box, and in the log file it should tell you what binds have errors. Outside of that, I haven't implemented like a rigorous error checking system, but check the log if there's some kind of control issue. It should at least point you in the right direction. So yeah, that's binds, all 70 of them, and all the other options. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It's been a wonderful 4.5 years of development. I hope you enjoy this mod half as much as I've enjoyed implementing it. And yeah, if you encounter bugs, but when you encounter bugs, please let me know what you encounter. There's probably something that I can do maybe to either fix it or at the minimum provide another crappy workaround while I figure out how to truly fix it. So anyway, I really hope you guys enjoy this mod, and yeah, let me know if you find any bugs. Let me know if there are any features you want me to implement, what kind of compatibility you want me to provide for some other mods. I'll do what I can. But on that note, I am going to take a break from development. It's been 4.5 years of almost daily work, 7 days a week, and yeah, I'm going to just take a break from it. And you will find secret mechanics like this. What even is that? Well, there's some secrets for you guys to find. Anyway, cheers guys. I hope you enjoyed the mod, and have a good one. Peace out.